I want to pass directly to Aravind to give us his insights from Frost and Sullivan research. So Aravind, please continue.
Okay, I hope everyone can see the screen properly. I'm going to be talking briefly about some best practices in license management for embedded systems, mainly from a customer perspective. As part of the digital media team's coverage at Frost & Sullivan, we look at a whole range of media technologies and solutions ranging from software to audio-video systems, content delivery, and within software we track a number of verticals, including animation, CAD/CAM, nonlinear editors, enterprise productivity, and specifically in terms of security, we track document rights management, DRM for content and pay TV, and of course, software license management, which ties all of them together. As mentioned by Oliver before, embedded covers a vast number of verticals, and the total embedded device market is in fact several times larger than the desktop software market. Having said that, full-featured software in embedded devices is still a relatively new phenomenon, and device vendors are still in the process of understanding the benefits of a commercial license management system. In contrast, high-end desktop apps have been using license management for well over a decade, and as a result, within the license management market, the embedded segment today is currently smaller than the desktop segment in terms of maturity. That said, embedded is the fastest growing segment for license management, driven by two key factors. One, embedded CE devices sales are skyrocketing, and apps are growing along with them. And secondly, the embedded space itself is growing and increasingly adopting commercial license management solutions. We'll discuss some of the key reasons for this growing adoption in the next slide. Hardware devices are increasingly powered by software, and editions and SKUs increasingly managed in software. The hardware itself is relatively cheap. I mean, there's not much delta between, say, 4 megabyte or 64 megabyte of memory. So many units ship with the full 64 megabit, but 4, 8, and 16 megabit SKUs are enforced using software as well, and license management is being used to manage these types of business models. Also, as these models get more and more complex, license management needs are correspondingly also becoming more complex. For instance, there is a growing demand for turning more fine-grained turning features on and off, either during shipment or in deployment. As another example, license management is used to govern peripheral functions like testing and maintenance that are to be specifically enabled only for certain authorized personnel. Another feature is floating licenses, which best support their customers' team-based approach to using the software, and annual licenses with a customizable renewal date, which would allow customers to purchase new licenses on different dates while maintaining a single renewal date for all their licenses. So in these respects, embedded software license management is very similar to the desktop use case. But there are some very distinct differences as well. IP is typically a much more critical component for embedded relative to desktop because performance tuning matters. Hardware is often commodity, and therefore the risk of counterfeiting is very high. Therefore, node locking, which is the tight binding of the software layer to a particular hardware instance, is much more important in the case of embedded. The protection of intellectual property within the software layer is also very important. And as embedded software becomes easier to reverse engineer and tamper with, anti-tamper protection is also becoming more and more important in these embedded devices. Because otherwise, hackers can simply isolate the routines that enforce business rules and then disable them or bypass them. So when you're selecting a license management solution for your embedded products, it's very important to look at all three aspects: flexible monetization capability, but also anti-counterfeiting and anti-tamper measures to keep the product's integrity and safety intact. Just to recap the last two slides very quickly, license management for embedded devices is getting more complex, and it's also getting more important as the markets for embedded devices are becoming more global. And the biggest transformational factor in license management for embedded is the need to consider it at the design time and through performance testing as a first-class feature. Because memory footprint and runtime performance are so critical in the embedded systems, and because the software license management system has to touch nearly every aspect of the software to be truly effective, it's very hard to retrofit a license management system into a product after a major design is complete. And it's very important to realize that there are strong benefits to using a third-party license management system in embedded devices, even though embedded software development is typically a tightly controlled and vertically integrated process. This is because as platforms become more fragmented, business models evolve quickly, and demands on security continue to rise simultaneously, the costs of in-house development and maintenance can also get out of hand, and both performance and security levels can suffer if the license management solution is not being proactively enhanced and maintained. The majority of the considerations in choosing a license management system for embedded systems are the same as desktop systems. You have the features and functions, the reliability of security partner, and of course the return on investment. But there are several considerations that are unique to embedded, like the memory and runtime footprint, power consumption, the flexibility of the form factor if a dongle is being used, the ability to deploy online and offline, and of course runtime ruggedness and reliability. For simpler applications like lightweight consumer apps on mobile devices, you can maybe get away with using a desktop app style license management strategy, but that will definitely not work for all mobile apps, and it definitely doesn't work efficiently for dedicated purpose embedded devices. So it's important to look for a solution that's proven on embedded systems and a vendor who has a strong and proven experience in the specific needs of protecting embedded systems. And that brings me nicely to Wibu-Systems, which is a very good example of a vendor who meets the best practices criteria for an embedded license management system. The product itself supports a wide range of embedded platforms and allows equivalent deployment with or without a dangle. And as we saw earlier, the storefront is also relatively simple to customize to the device vendor's specific business needs. What is also very crucial is the fact that Wibu supports a very wide range of dongle connectivity interfaces, unlike most of its competitors who only offer USB interfaces. The solution can also scale to support desktop and cloud extensions of embedded devices, such as monitoring dashboards. It's also worth noting that Wibu uses industry standard algorithms for its license management enforcement, so you can technically continue to maintain and optimize your solution independent of Wibu-Systems if that ever becomes necessary. That is kind of important from a long-term risk management perspective. And finally, Wibu-Systems is one of the few license management vendors who has a very stringent focus on security, both through internal innovation and through extensive external testing. Okay, just to quickly wrap this up, I'd like to highlight some key takeaways for embedded software developers. Given the involvement of a number of teams, engineering, testing, marketing, finance, operations, we highly recommend that all these teams be involved in conceiving and executing the company's license management strategy over time. Scalability, it goes without saying, is a very important factor, since license management systems, once deployed, are very hard to replace because all the existing units still have to be serviced and deployed, and incorporating two systems in parallel is nearly impossible due to the performance constraints. So it's very important to plan and choose carefully the first time. And last but not the least, do ensure that the system is adequately secure, because any R&D investment in business rule enforcement and SKU management will be be kind of wasted if the user or hacker can easily bypass or disable these measures. So that's pretty much it from my side. Thank you for your attention, and I'll turn the control back to Oliver.
Aravind, thank you very much for your research insights from Frost and Sullivan. I think that's quite a very good overview and also a good summary for topics that vendors need to consider when they are selecting a solution. Okay, so I want